Do we get to do it again? Breaking news! Breaking news! We have another trade to announce. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoy back with you today. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. And yes, we have another trade to announce. So for me, it was last night, I believe, when the news broke once again from Vegas that they made another trade. Now, we mentioned in, I think it was the last video, you know, what we kind of think they're going to do, what kind of moves they're going to make, and, you know, what the kind of trade deadline, the rest of it kind of looks like for them. So I wasn't surprised of them being in the market for the player they got, but what they gave up, I'm actually okay with. So yes, I am talking about Noah Hanifin, and yes, we acquired him for really not a lot if you really look at this trade. So on your screen now is going to be the complete trade, and yes, there is 3 teams involved. So let's start with Vegas, right? So they acquire Noah Hanifin and a prospect, Mikhail Vorobyev. I don't really know Russian names. Butcher him every single time. So I did look him up. He's just a guy that was playing in Russia for a while, got drafted, played like 2 years in the AHL, kind of jumped up and down a little bit, wasn't really, you know, outstanding, put up like, you know, 20 points or something in like 40 games, 45, 50 games. So not terrible, but not great either. So they acquired him to the signing rights to him. Okay, and they obviously get Hanifin, which is what they wanted. So what they gave away, now on your screen now you can see my cursor. So basically all of the Calgary, what they acquired is from Vegas. So they acquire Danil Miramanov, who is I'll say a bubble defenseman, meaning they've tried him out at the NHL level, but hasn't really found a home as like a 7th defenseman or even in the starting 6 every single night, and has been up and down a lot. Plus, he came back from apparently a big-time injury. I don't remember what that was offhand, but he only played 9 games this year. So it's hard to say of like, oh, he's been playing well or he hasn't been playing well, because as soon as he got healthy again, pretty sure he went down to the AHL, played some games, came up, and just hasn't really done too much, you know, this year. So 9 games played for Miramanov this year, so it's really kind of hard to tell, you know, what he could bring to the table. Now, this is his stats for this year. This is Miramanov, that is. So he's 26 years old, Russian, 6'4", so he's got some size to him. And like I said, yeah, he only played 9 games this year, and 5 of them being in the AHL. He had 6 points in those 5 games in the AHL. Came up to Vegas. He played 4 games. He got hurt in there, I believe, again. Got healthy again, and then just hasn't really played now that Vegas's top 6 was pretty much healthy, you know, for the last little bit. But if we want to jump back to the past and what he did. So last year in the AHL, 22 points in 31 games. That's pretty solid for a defenseman. Came up 6 points in 14 games. Not terrible, right? That's pretty good. Year before, 40 points in 53 games. That's pretty solid. And then you also have the year before in 2021, 2022, 11 games played, 1 point in the NHL. Played a few games, I'm guessing, after he was signed from the KHL because I believe he was undrafted. So, you know, looking back at his history, obviously he's done well. He played in the juniors, went overseas, you know, did pretty well in his junior times and even overseas. Came over in the AHL, he was doing pretty solid, but just when he brought up to the NHL, couldn't really find a consistent home in the lineup with only 29 games played in the NHL, if I remember correctly when I was looking at it. Yeah, so 29 games played, 7 points in that time. So unproven, but Calgary saw enough in there that they decided to trade for him or include him in this trade and then extend him 2 years at $1.25 million. So if I was a GM, I don't know how much I'd really extend a guy that's that unproven to a contract that's like a third line, right defensive pairing guy. But, they obviously thought, well of him to sign him to that contract, that they feel strong enough that, they want to get him and then keep him around. Now, the big part of this trade, of course, is going to be Noah Hanifin. So Noah Hanifin, obviously, is 27 years old, 6'3", defenseman from Boston, former first-round pick, 5th overall by Carolina, and has a pretty good track record, if you ask me. Top 4 defenseman, plays in all situations, can play on the power play, pretty good defensively. So I love this trade, absolutely love it. But if you look at what he's done this year, 35 points in 61 games, that's solid. 38 points in 81 games last year, solid. Even before that, better year before. This year, I think, was the COVID year, so obviously, a tough year for everybody. 22 points second year in Calgary. 30 points, 22 points. He's there, right? He's doing well. That's even college right there, but he's been doing really well, and he's still somewhat young. So, obviously, we haven't talked about it yet, but there was no extension in place for Hanifin, and I would definitely like to see him extended and stick around in Vegas for a while. So then, along with Maramanov, they also got a 2025 first-round pick of Vegas's being conditional, and a 2025 third-round draft pick also conditional. So let's take a look at these conditions. So the first one on the first-round pick, so the condition is if it's traded by March 10th, 2024, which as of this video coming out and me recording it, is 3 days from now. Which doesn't make sense because the trade deadline is apparently tomorrow, being the 8th, and the 10th is Sunday. So that doesn't really make sense. But hey, whatever works. But if it's traded by March 10th, 2024, or if the pick is in the top 10, Calgary will receive Vegas's 2026 first-round draft pick. So, okay, you're protecting that first-round pick if it is top 10 or if it is traded this year. That does move. So that could, mean that there's other moves in the works. Maybe a Jake Getzel. That'd be pretty cool. Unlikely, but that'd be really cool. But it protects their first-round pick this year. Then also on the second pick there, the conditional third-round pick, it does upgrade to a second-round pick if Vegas wins one playoff round this year. Which obviously, if they make the playoffs, we'd feel pretty confident in. So that might upgrade to a second. So a first and a second and a pick for Hanifin. It's a more pick-heavy, deal instead of like a second and a fourth, like Mantha was. It does provide a first-round pick no matter what. A player that, let's just say he's NHL ready. I don't know if he really truly is or not, in a conditional third that could become a second. So you get a defenseman who could play already, a first-round pick no matter what in the next 2 or 3 years, or in the next 3 years, and also a third-round pick at least, and if not, a second. So that's a pretty decent return for Hanifin. Obviously, a top-line guy, definitely top 4. That's pretty solid. So also, of course, in this deal, of course, trade deadline time required lots of retained salary. So Hanifin retained twice in this deal, of course. The Flyers involved in this got half the percentage of that, and then Philadelphia did as well. So Noah Hanifin is now under a 1.2375 money retained contract, along with, of course, the prospect. So now when we take a look at the Calgary salary cap chart over here on Cap Friendly, so Daniil Maramanov is down here, along with former Vegas Golden Knights defenseman Braden Pockel. So I'm not sure how he's doing over there, but it does kind of fill out their defense a little bit. So, behind all these guys, I don't know how much playing time either of those guys is going to get, but given that they did, sign him, to a decent contract, 2 years at $1.25 million each year, so a $2.5 million total contract for kind of an unproven guy, pretty solid for him. So, Calgary just hasn't really put it together this year. They got some pieces over there, but, they make this deal. Obviously, they kind of get where they're going to after all this. at least for Vegas over here, again on cap friendly, is it gives us a really solid defense core now. I mean, it was pretty solid before, but now it's even better. So with Pietrangelo, Theodore, McNabb, Whitecloud, Haig, and Hanifin, along with Martinez, who got placed on the injured reserve list, I think yesterday or something like that. It's close to when Hanifin got the trade. But then also, you have some young talent there, Bjornfoot, and a couple other guys down here. Of course, it's a couple guys on long-term IR, a few more guys added to the IR itself, a couple of guys on their way back, so hopefully they'll get back, before the playoffs. But again, we want Hanifin here, right? 27 years old, top-line defenseman. But again, you're going to have to make some decisions this offseason. And given that you already have Theodore, you already have McNabb, and you already have Pietrangelo, and you have Whitecloud, pretty much all those guys locked up already, that almost means that Nick Hague is going to be on the trade block going into the offseason. So, they do have him for one more year, but also you have Marshall Southey needs a contract, you have Stevenson that needs a contract, and if you want to bring back Mantha, he's going to need a contract too. So, you got some big decisions to make this offseason, and hopefully, re-signing Hanifin and getting his extension soon, and I mean really soon, should definitely be on the priority list, because you gave up, a little bit to get him, and hopefully it's not just for a rental. But I guess the next big question is Vegas done? And, they got a forward, right? They got a winger to kind of replace Mark Stone for now. They upgraded their defense. What else could you need? I mean, you could always use another winger. I wouldn't be sad if I saw a Jake Getzler or a Buznevich trade, but that would require a lot, especially given their cap situation and given everything that is going on right now with their team and with the players that are coming back. Are you able to make that trade? I'm not exactly sure. But that's going to do it for today's video. What do you guys think? What do you think of the trade? What do you think of the return for Vegas and from Calgary, their sides? If you haven't yet, or if you're brand new here, make sure to subscribe. It helps the channel grow, helps us get more eyes on the video. And as always, guys, we'll see you